Okay, so I'm Jill Jensen. My current role is a middle school STEM teacher in ISD 196. And as I mentioned kind of in the beginning, I'm headed back to a science classroom next year. I taught middle school science for a number of years, and then I actually did K-5 science specialist for a number of years, and then I'm headed back to middle school science next year. And then joining me is also Tammy.
And my name is Tami B. I'm the Director of Instructional Tech at St. Paul Academy and Summit School. I teach sixth grade computer science, and I kind of dig into computer science K-12 as well. And I've been an English teacher. I've taught a lot of different content areas. So I was also part of the cohort about 4 years ago.
And I just am wrapping up my cohort year this year. So it's been a great opportunity to connect with others from across the state and hear how other people are bringing computer science into their rooms. So again, this is the document that we put in the chat and is shared on the main Zoom page too. So just a description of the session, and then again, there's some resources that Tammy and I have included in there as well, with some links of things that we're going to be talking about, and then a place for anyone to add some other links or resources that might be helpful for everybody. So some of the ways that I've used some computer science for me, this past year, like I said, I was a STEM specialist. So I had sixth grade as a standalone class and then a mixed seventh and eighth grade classes as elective classes. And I introduced Scratch to all the sixth graders and used an All About Me template, an example for students as a way to introduce them. So because as a specialist and I only see them for one trimester, it was a great way for me to introduce coding as well as get to know who these kids are that I see for just kind of this limited window of time. I also taught a game design class, and so I used Scratch and the tutorials in Scratch as a way to introduce some gaming platforms to my elective class. And then we were able to jump off of the tutorials for them to figure out ways to modify them. I'm lucky enough to have a set of Spheros in my school. And so coding and programming the Spheros, again, was a way for me to bring some design thinking and use some of the other tools in my room for students to create a mini golf course. And then I've also had students use microbits with my game design class to create a rock, paper, scissors game, and then encourage students to find ways to modify that game to come up with kind of some unique twists of that game. And then the way that I am really thinking personally just about broadening participation in computer science is really trying to embed it into curriculum. And by having it be not an after school club or but really kind of brought into the main school day, to me was the best way to try to reach a broader audience. And then just making sure that I'm sharing with colleagues, both within my school and within my district, as well as in the broader community of people that I'm connected with, like the Minnesota Science Teachers Association and other groups that I'm a part of just making sure that they're aware of computer science opportunities, sharing examples of what I'm doing, and really encouraging other people to kind of look for ways to integrate as well. As I mentioned earlier, then there were also, let's see, some examples. These were some of the examples that I've used with computer science when I was at an elementary school, but I think many of these can go into middle school examples as well. So the science example, we used some Spheros to actually code and model using how water moved from solid to liquid to gas. So we started with the Spheros all as a solid, so they were really small and compact and not moving very much. And then as we moved into the liquid state, then the Spheros kind of had greater motion and moved wider apart. And then as it moved into a gas, then they got kind of crazy and moved all over the place. And then we also use the Spheros if you get kind of the right size cup to go on top of a Sphero, then you can decorate those cups with characters, and you can make the Spheros kind of act out or retell different story parts. And so that's what these girls were doing with their cups, and then coding and programming the Spheros to have certain actions based on their character. And then one of the other pieces I've done is used a turtle art program, which is very similar to Scratch, to have fourth graders code and program a radial art design using the internal angles of a regular polygon in a repeating loop pattern. And then we were able to take a screenshot of that and download that, and then actually upload it back into MakerBot and print those. So then we had a three-dimensional version of their radial art. And then those were sent to our art teacher, who then used them as a stamp and pressed them into clay. And we created some mosaic patterns with those. And then finally, down here at the bottom again is just this example of one of the game classes. And they took a tutorial like the Pong game, and then this student found a way to modify it to kind of create their own. They had these different balls that they had to try to avoid. This was the ball that they were in control of, and this was actually, they were able to combine the microbit and the Scratch, so the ball was controlled by tilting the microbit back and forth. And then they added in the extra feature of the ball they were in control of actually changed size the further you got into the game, so it got harder and harder to try to avoid those obstacles. So it was pretty fun.
Well, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about computer science at my school. A couple of things that we've done to try to promote equity have been things like requiring it or making it part of our curriculum as a required piece for all students K through 8. Primarily, it's integrated in our computer science curriculum, grades kindergarten through 5th grade. But when we started in 6th grade, then we actually have a formal course, and I'll tell you about that in a second. We have opportunities for choice and creativity in every lesson, so that we're trying to make sure that kids with different learning modalities, different interests, are still connected with technology and computer science. We also have mini lessons on tech ethics each year, just to reinforce concepts around just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's something that's really important with middle school kids especially. So we have enrichment options, things like mini courses in grades 3 through 5. We have activities in 6 through 8. So those are in addition to our actual required courses. We have First Lego League, and because we've noticed over the years, because we've had First Lego League for well over 10 years, we've noticed over the years that participation has really increased with diverse populations, with girls, and that sort of thing. We've also started Technovation. We're in our 3rd year this year for female and female identifying students. So that's been helpful as well. Can you go into the next slide?
Yeah.
Thank you. So our middle school computer science program, every student is required to have 1 trimester of computer science per year. I'm fortunate to be able to teach the 6th grade course. In 6th grade, we start with Star Logo Nova. And Star Logo Nova is a block-based programming language from MIT. It's been around for quite a while. It was actually intended for simulations, but what I do is I teach animation and game design, and then the next year they use it in computer science or in their science program, and I can explain that in a second. We also have a unit on microbit inventions where every student has their own microbit. They go through some basic lessons, things like rock, paper, scissors, and that sort of thing. And then they move into other projects of their own choosing. In 6th grade science, we have a unit called the Big Break unit. I team teach that with our science teachers, and we do some engineering with Tinkercad in that area. So that's how computer science is integrated in 6th grade. All 7th graders have a Python-based trimester where they use something called NC Lab. It's basically an online Python environment. And then they also do some more work with microbits. And then I have to excuse my dog. He's barking outside, and I'm waiting for my daughter to let him in. In 7th grade science, we use Star Logo Nova for climate simulation. So the same skills that we're learning with animation and game design applied to 3D climate simulations. And then in 8th grade, this is our first year of a formal Python course for 8th grade, where the kids are working with Pygame and Raspberry Pi. And then in Science 8, they do some reverse engineering. So that's not necessarily computer science, but it is tied together. So that's our overall curriculum.
So we are hoping to actually engage with the people here who have decided to join into, and we'd love to learn more about what you are doing, or your ideas or thoughts behind some of the things going on with computer science in middle school or in your program. And would love for you to unmute yourself or join in by sharing any of these questions that we have here. So things that have been your greatest success or biggest challenges. And we put in both while school was going on as well as in distance learning, because it feels like they're really sort of two separate worlds at this point that haven't necessarily found a way to meld together. And then how has distance learning maybe impacted your learning or topic? And then any ideas or successes you've had with engaging students? And then how we could broaden this topic, participation for underrepresented groups in this topic. So feel free to jump in, and we'd love to hear from you on any or all of those conversation pieces.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourselves. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
I guess I can start. I spent some time with Tami at one of our cohort meetings. I'm just finishing up on our cohort as well. And I really enjoyed the microbits. And so I went and cleaned out my savings account, and I bought a bunch of them for my classes. And then all I could afford was like 6 of them. And and I bought some sensors and a couple other things, and downloaded some of the free curriculum. And then once we started messing around with them, I realized that I didn't want 4 or 5 kids in a group playing with one microbit. And so then I applied for a grant from our local TV station, and I laid out exactly what I wanted to do with all the CS and the computational thinking. And we were able to buy another $300 worth of microbits, giving our kids pretty much, the most I have to have on them is 2 apiece, 2 kids on a microbit. So by the time we got those delivered, we were already at home. And so it didn't go as well as I wanted. I did create packets before we left school, and I let all my kids know that if they wanted to mess around with them, I would send them like the curriculum stuff. And I set up times for Zoom to get online with them, but I didn't have any takers, which was kind of unfortunate. But I'm hopeful for next year. The second thing that I've been doing with my computer aid class is before we left school in March, I made binders for all of them with the Scratch curriculum, the learner's workbook, and we've been slowly working through those. And I have probably about 6 or 7 of them that are doing really, really well with that. And I like the idea that they have to, solve their own problems and stuff like that. So it's been, the distance learning has probably been good for them, trying to rely on themselves more than me for their answers. So
That's awesome. That's congratulations on your grant and getting more microbits. That's very exciting.
thank you.
And I know it can be frustrating to feel like you were just about to get something started and then have it kind of taken away. I feel like I have a similar experience. But I guess, but now you have it, and now the groundwork is laid, and now, in future, you just have to trust that it's going to be there and come back, and you're going to be ready for it. And then have you had kids use the make code at home without the microbit? No? Okay.
I have not done that, no. We went to like an every other day class situation where our classes are a little bit longer, but we're not supposed to, we were supposed to kind of back off on the amount of work that they were doing. And so I'm sure most of you had the same situation, I'm sure. So I was just happy to get through the scratch stuff is what I was happy for. So I'm hoping that I can do the microbit stuff when we get back to school again,
Sure.
hopefully in the fall. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where normally, because I have a trimester-based course, we spend 2/3 of the trimester working on Star Logo Nova and doing animation and then doing the game design. And then the last trimester is normally microbits. And we've been using microbits since they were available in this country. This is the first year that I haven't been able to use them with a group of children. And it's just heartbreaking because it's my favorite part of the year. I mean, I love the games that we make. I love the animations that kids are doing, but I love doing the stuff with the microbits. And we just weren't able to do it this year. I was talking with my administrators and we're trying to find a way that depending on what happens in the fall, that I would have like little bags made up for the students that they would take home. So that's going to be one of my summer projects, is trying to make sure that everybody has some that go with them.
I'm we have no computer science in our school at all. And because I'm part of the cohort group this year, I decided to put together some curriculum for 7th grade. And I want to give a shout out to Sarah Carter, because at our CS and coffee here a couple of weeks ago, she told me about this book, big fat, notebook about everything you ever needed. Yes, there it is. And I downloaded it and started reading it. It was like, oh, this is just laid out so perfect. So I was really excited about that. And the other thing I'm going to try to do is integrate the Edison robots with that. And Edison Robots has a nice laid out curriculum too. So just like many of you talk about, we have trimesters and our students meet every other day. And so I'm looking at like 5 days for a unit, and some of it will be, it's a blended course where some of it they'll be working on their own. And then when they come into class, they'll be able to do some of the coding and robotics work. So I'm excited. Let's hope that we're back in school next fall, right?
Awesome. That looks like a great resource. And it looks like the title, Tami was able to put the title in the chat. And we'll work on putting that in the shared doc as well to make sure that people know how to get that and get access to that too. Cool.
One other resource I'd love to suggest, if you're interested in doing anything with Star Logo Nova, they have, it's a great integration with science. They have a program called Teachers with Guts. And the idea is it's all professional development for science teachers to integrate computer science and making all sorts of different science simulations, everything from predator and prey to contagion to climate, lots of different things. So, and that's in our slides or in our resources as well.
I'm going to just jump into, I should say that the book I was referencing, in the copyright, it allows a teacher to make copies of the pages in the book, just, for their class. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. So that's a nice piece.
Awesome. Any other success stories or challenges related to integrating computer science in your topic?
I can speak to kind of I guess it's been a challenge at the school that I'm at Mounds Park Academy, and it's a pre-K through 12th grade school. Tracy Joyce is another cohort member this year, as am I, and 3 years ago I moved to Makerspace coordinator, but when we moved to distance learning, we found that a lot of our teachers needed a lot of support, tech support. And so Tracy and I have been running tech support for families and students and teachers. So our Makerspace classes, which was kind of like a seminar class for grades 5 through 8, they kind of got tabled for now. We are running some alternative programming throughout the week. On Wednesdays, we have a kind of Makerspace tech kind of challenge that we present. And then on after school on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, we run a virtual playground, which is themed in different ways. So it's definitely our roles have changed at our school, but we are thinking about fall and what that might look like. And obviously it's kind of up in the air right now, but we're really missing our students and missing those opportunities to bring computer science into their world. So yeah, it's not, I don't know, it's frustrating and it's challenging. But yeah.
How have the after school events been going? Like when you
Yeah, they're going actually pretty good. On Wednesdays, it's for pre-K through fourth grade, and it's called Open Playground, and they're kind of themed. And like one week we had a puppet theme. We did a fort building. We did a Lego theme. Different like engineering building challenges. So, and we started that pretty much right away. And then on Thursdays we bring in a guest speaker, and that's an all ages event. And on Fridays is also all ages, and that is Fiber Friends, which we have during the school year on Fridays during the lunch hour, but now with distance learning we have it after school. We are doing live classes, specifically for middle school is all live classes, and so is upper school. And then our lower school, they have maybe 3 different days where they have live classes. So it's been just, we're just trying to get through it at this point. And but those after school things have been really fun.
Yeah, I think that's important because I know for me personally, I've also had, the range of anything from kids who are trying to log into Scratch and like just can't even get logged in, and I'm sending like multiple screenshots and emails with their username and password, to kids who finish the assignment in like 30 minutes, and then are like looking for the next thing to do. So I love the idea, and Sarah said that too, of the after school programming for those kids who are maybe done. And I know my personal kids are also usually done with their distance learning assignments by like 11, and then are just kind of like wandering around the house the rest of the day. So it's nice to have some other opportunities for them without necessarily like having to create like a whole new curriculum or a ton of stuff for them.
I'd love to do a shout out to the Code Savvy weekly coding challenges. Those have been helpful. I know my principal and I had talked about it, and right when those came out, we just started sending them out to all of our middle schoolers too. So Wednesdays we have kind of like, we call it a Wellness Wednesday. And basically, although most of our classes have synchronous components, on Wednesday students don't have the traditional synchronous class. So that's a more of a flex day for teachers to have meetings and that sort of thing. And for students, it's been, great to have options like code challenges.
Cool. Let's see, I think.
I have a question for Tami actually, because we
Sure.
moved to the Wellness Wednesdays as well.
Mm-hmm.
And have you talked about next year if we do distance learning, if you'll continue with the Wellness Wednesdays?
Right now, I just don't know. It's one of those things where I really hope that we'll keep it, because it's been a great like breather day for kids and for teachers to not have to have as much screen time and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I know our administrators are planning on meeting in June to figure out what the fall is going to look like. We just have no idea at this point.
Yeah.
But I do hope that we keep it. I think it's been a really helpful component.
I agree. I think it's nice for the students to be able to kind of take a break and have some, choices or to connect with teachers.
So, sorry, it's hard to know when to speak. So I did this, I'm doing calling it an online gaming and animation festival, where kids can make projects in Scratch. And we're doing a weekly meet where kids can share about what they're doing. And then I'll have a Scratch studio where kids can comment. I'm going to give out some Goofy awards. And I've got like 15 kids who are doing it, and it's open to the school, so like as an extra enrichment. And I feel like that's been pretty successful, and it's gotten kids together to work on projects too, which is nice. So they're working virtually, or we have like a pair of twins, they're working together at home. And so that's just really nice, because it's like, oh, these kids really want to do this, and it's getting them talking and collaborating.
I think that social connection is so important right now with distance learning, you know, trying to forge those bonds that kids would normally have in class and bring them to their virtual environment.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool.
Thanks.
We've got just a couple minutes left, but I just wanted to try to, let's see if I can bring this. Okay. If there's any, let's see, here we go. Any other resources to share? Or I know that that book was a great recommendation. So any other maybe lesson ideas or websites that you have found to be helpful? Or any Facebook groups maybe that you've been asked to join or find, as well as any Twitter groups or hashtags. It'd be great to hear about those, or again, put those in the chat or add those to the shared document.
It's been really great hearing from all of you the different things that you're doing and trying. So thank you. It's inspirational to hear that I'm not the only person dealing with this situation.
For sure.
I really enjoyed the Friday morning coffee and CS meetups that they've been hosting. You know, sometimes they're just kind of stress relievers where people just are talking about what's going on. You know, like you were saying, Tami, you feel like you're not alone, and sometimes there's just some really great resources shared that are really inspiring. So just kind of, it's a nice way to mark the end of the week.
Yeah, and just like I feel like just like the kids, like for teachers, sometimes it's nice to have that social interaction too. I feel like that's one of the things that we miss out on, is having that face to face with colleagues sometimes, or with, you know, a broader audience as well. All right. Well, I think that we've got about 1 minute left, so I think we'll maybe wrap it up. So thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate your engagement and conversation that we had. And we look forward to checking out those shared resources, and this recording will be made available on the main page too. So feel free to check it out and pass it on to others. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Keep tweeting MN codes, and we'll see you at the next session.
Thank you.